Well, all players have reported, and more importantly, all players passed the run test. To quote head coach Kliff Kingsbury, everybody was in shape. Now, he didn't talk about our shape, but welcome to a special edition of Cards Cover 2 here at State Farm Stadium. Yes, Cards Camp 2019 is open. The first practice tomorrow afternoon at 3:30, but today, everyone where they're supposed to be, MJ, and of course, now the real fun begins.
Yeah, and these guys get 5 weeks, 6 weeks off when it comes to veterans. Now, as for the rookies, obviously they spent a pretty amount of time in late June. They were at the facility last week. And so, you just wonder if guys keep themselves in shape. And I know when Bruce Arians was here, he didn't like guys going to speed coaches because football's played when you have to make cuts go not only north and south, but east and west. And that's good that we didn't see anybody, have a hamstring injury or guys couldn't finish. So obviously it's changed the NFL. You come into camp in shape. Otherwise, you're not going to be here very long.
Absolutely. Asked specifically about DJ Humphries. He took his run test last week. The injured players reported to Tempe last week. But according to Coach Kingsbury, and Humphries is ready to go. He's cleared, so we should see him in the first practice. Again, that's tomorrow afternoon. As far as those 6 players on the PUP list, no updates on any one of those, but Kingsbury is expecting those players to be on the field at some point here at Cards Camp. Now, of course, a lot of questions when Kingsbury spoke, MJ, about Kyler Murray, and that is what we're going to hear while we're here and basically all of 2019. Kyler Murray, the Cardinals rookie quarterback, drafted number 1 overall in the 2019 NFL draft. And Murray, according to Kingsbury, picked up where he left off. Remember, the rookies were here the last 2 weeks of June after the veterans had left following minicamp, and then rookies reported late last week. So they've actually been working for a full week ahead of tomorrow's first practice, but good to hear that Murray is kind of where he's supposed to be, maybe even a little bit ahead.
Yeah, and Kliff also mentioned that now that they had a chance to install some of the stuff in the offseason and then they go back to the drawing board and he relies on NFL experience, maybe they're going to have to tweak some stuff when it comes to install. Maybe this will work, won't work. So it'll be fascinating. But really the elephant in the room is how much is Kyler Murray going to play in the preseason? And you don't want to show anything. Now, the Cardinals do have 14 open practices where a year ago they only had 9. So obviously the fans are going to be able to see it. How much do they show in the preseason? And again, this is a very unusual situation from a standpoint of Kyler Murray knows the offense just as well as Kliff Kingsbury. I would say Christian Kirk obviously played with Murray at Texas A&M. He's familiar with it. So to me, he's ahead of the curve. When you're a young quarterback, likely you go to a new team, they got a new head coach, possibly a new GM. You have to learn a new system. You have to learn new terminology. That's not the case with Kyler Murray, so they're ahead of the curve there. Now it's a matter of there's going to be some learning curve and growing pains going into the season, if not during the season.
Now, piggybacking off of how much we see during these open practices, how much do we see Murray in the preseason? And Kingsbury, quote, "That's the million-dollar question because you don't want to give away what you're doing." I know we differ on that. We've talked about it here on Cards Cover 2. I think Murray does need to play, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be on the field a lot. But those questions, and we're still, a couple of weeks away from that first preseason game against the Chargers, but those questions are already starting to come up.
Yeah, but I also think, when it comes to these young receivers and a lot of guys that maybe on the back end of the roster, they're going to get plenty of opportunity. Hundley's got to be ready at some point. Do they keep a quarterback on the practice squad? Is that more Charles Knopf? He's not part of this new regime from a coaching standpoint. Drew Anderson showed a stronger arm in the offseason here. But Hundley's going to have to be ready. Your one play could be an equipment infraction, come out of the game. So I would assume they want to get these guys reps. But a lot of these guys, especially these rookie wide receivers and guys like Kevin White and Trent Sherfield, they're going to play all 4 games in the preseason because they're going to have to show their worth and their upside.
Of course, we're all excited, looking forward to seeing what this offense exactly looks like. Again, 3:30 Thursday afternoon, the first open practice, one of 14 open practices here at State Farm Stadium. And again, admission is free, parking is free, and of course, it's air conditioned. Get out of the heat and watch the Arizona Cardinals on what we think might be happening in 2019. So a lot of focus on the offense, but...
Yeah, well, we're going to start talking about the defense, Grialou. I mean, I know that all the hype is on Kyler Murray and Kliff Kingsbury just because they're both rookies. I get it. But this Cardinal defense, I would hope that they can carry their water in the first half of the season. Obviously, when you get Patrick Peterson back, there's going to be great competition there. You look at some of the personalities between T-Sizzle and Jordan Hicks and DJ Swearinger and Chandler Jones and Darius Philon. I'm really excited about this defense under Vance Joseph. Can we talk a little defense at some point? I know that the storyline is the quarterback and the head coach will have plenty of time over the next month or so.
Well, they say offense wins games, defense wins championships. But you brought up Patrick Peterson. A couple of interesting questions posed to Coach Kingsbury about Peterson. One is, how many reps do we see Peterson get here in training camp? Because he is going to miss the first 6 weeks of this regular season due to a suspension. And that's a question that Kingsbury right now isn't sure, because they need to make sure that those other cornerbacks get reps. And then who is that number 2 corner? Kingsbury today would not put anyone in that spot right now. Is it Byron Murphy? Is it Tremaine Brock Sr.? But that's a question that I think, outside of maybe who the starting center is, that's the biggest question defensively.
Well, he did mention Tremaine Brock Sr., and he mentioned Chris Jones.
Yes.
And I think both of those guys flashed in the offseason. Obviously, Byron Murphy is a high draft pick, 33rd overall. And I think, just to start, and they're going to have different combinations opposite of Robert Alford, is maybe you put him in the inside to kind of hide him a little bit. Obviously, his future's on the outside, but you want to get your playmakers on the field. So I would anticipate when they line up, Tremaine Brock is opposite of Robert Alford. Curious to see where Chris Jones is. Is he backing up Alford? Is he backing up Brock because of competition? And then where does Byron Murphy? And then they have some other guys on the roster, but that's going to be great competition, because I don't know how much Patrick's going to play. He's really going to be a coach here. I got a chance to see him briefly today. He looks in good shape. He's one of those guys that keeps us in shape for the entire offseason. I'm sure he's devastated that he's going to miss the games, but he knows it. They know it. And so they just got to get through it. But it'd be interesting to see the competition roll out. And Tremaine Brock has experience inside and outside. He obviously started his career with the San Francisco 49ers, played in 1 year in Minnesota, and then he was with Vance Joseph and some of those defensive backs coaches. So I think he may have a leg up just based on experience and familiarity with the defense.
Well, a follow-up to Kingsbury about Peterson and whether he plays in the preseason. And Kingsbury, quote, remains to be seen, which I thought was interesting, because I've been on record. It doesn't matter if he's going to not be here. He still needs to get the work, but maybe that work comes in practice as opposed to in games, because we know that there is an extra element of the speed, and you want maybe guys that are going to be here in September and early October to be on the field, and maybe number 21 sits preseason out.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him. Does he want to play? I mean, obviously you want to make sure he's healthy, and he's healthy. And the thing is, I don't want to see him playing in that 4th preseason game. Does he really need to play in the first one? Do you get knock a little rust off, because he's going to have to keep himself in shape. Now, once the preseason's over and the Cardinals get to their 53-man roster, he'll have to go bye-bye for 6 weeks, and then he'll be eligible to come back in Week 7 when the Cardinals play the Giants. So there'll be no communication between him and the organization, players, etc. A little bit different than other suspensions in the league. So they obviously got to find a contingency plan, and I think on paper, they feel good about the cornerbacks. We're not talking about bringing another corner in, at least at this point.
No, there is one open roster spot. There was 2, but one was filled earlier today. The team did add linebacker Matt Longacre, formerly of the Los Angeles Rams, 4 seasons with the Rams, now signing a 1-year contract with the Cardinals. 6'3", 265 pounds, started a career-high 7 games last season, played 13, but again, that is depth, especially at the linebacker position. Outside linebacker, outside of Terrell Suggs, Chandler Jones, Brooks Reed. Remember, he's on PUP list, and Dante Booker as well, but he's more inside. But there is spots potentially at outside linebacker on this Cardinals team.
Yeah, I mean, it's on paper, unless Brooks Reed can obviously get off PUP, because they're counting on him to be a special teams player or maybe a 20-25 snap guy. Obviously, you got Sizzle and Chandler Jones, but guys like Cameron Malvo and Vontarius Dora. But they needed some depth. And he also can play on special teams, and so he's got to make the roster. But I think the other position that, because of them letting go of Will Holden and Desmond Harrison, and they made the right decision there swiftly, I would think the next position could be offensive tackle. I think going into camp, the 2 biggest, quote, needs on paper, depth-wise, or offensive tackle and outside linebacker, and they've already checked the outside linebacker position.
And I'd be really surprised if that 90th guy is not here before that first practice tomorrow, just because, I mean, what's the hurt? I mean, there is nothing. You've got an open spot, and those final spots, you can continually bring in guys in and out until you find someone who actually fits and can get the job done.
Yeah, when it comes to the waiver wire, you're going to see a lot of guys come and go, but those guys are more camp bodies, so I don't think they'll be really active unless somebody, Mike Daniels was out there today, but he's a vested vet. According to reports, he wants to play for a contender. Cleveland could be an option. They lost out on Gerald McCoy. They got the money to spend. So I think right now they're going after unrestricted street free agents to come in here, guys that want to get off the couch and make a little money. They brought in guys last week. They weren't in shape. Hopefully they realize they got to get in shape here. So it's just more depth. And to me, we talked about it all the time. Whoever that last guy is at that position, they're trying to get better, and that's the reason why they released Will Holden.
So today, just the run test and then meetings on the field for the first practice tomorrow at 3:30. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Indoors, free admission, free parking, concessions. Bring the kids. They have a kids zone there. So, listen, this is the time to be indoors in Arizona, and do it before school starts, because last year I was curious about this going into the season. This year I'm really excited, and it's the unknown, but I think this team is going to be a lot better, competitive, and hopefully they can win some games in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, team will not be in pads the first couple of practices. They will be in pads, though, coming up this weekend, so perhaps the first hitting coming up later on this week. Special thanks here on this special edition of Cards Covered 2 Behind the Scenes. Jim Omahundro, Grayson Choi. Again, special editions of Cards Covered 2 for every open practice. That means we'll be back with you tomorrow at 3:30 on Thursday. Mark it down as Cards Camp underway here at State Farm Stadium. For my partner Mike Jurecki, I'm Craig Grialou. We'll talk to you on Thursday.